Welcome to the battle of two popular mid-range phones for the first half of 2020. They are the Xiaomi Redmi Note 9s and Realme 6. Both devices have just made their debut and have received overwhelming sales feedback. The Redmi Note 9s carries on its predecessor's legacy of having a huge screen and battery while powered by a Snapdragon 720G processor. On the other hand, Realme steps up its game by including a 90Hz refresh rate display for the first time on a mid-range phone and employs MediaTek's gaming SoC to power the Realme 6. Although both offer very enticing specs on paper, the Redmi Note 9s challenges the Realme 6 with a lower price tag. But is it necessarily the better choice? Let's find out. Aesthetically, they aren't too different in terms of size. Although the Redmi Note 9s has a slightly larger display at 6.67 inches, it is cumbersome to handle due to its larger battery. They are both extremely well-built devices with a reflective glossy back that fortunately hides fingerprints really well. Although the Realme 6 gradient color design looks more attractive, I prefer Xiaomi's small squarish camera module design. But both camera bumps are equally thick, and you will need to put on their cases to prevent scratches in the long term. Both phones use a side-mounted fingerprint reader, which is more reliable than an in-screen fingerprint reader. But the Realme 6 hardware is better positioned and unlocks faster than the Redmi Note 9s. Once you look at the Realme 6 90Hz display, you will be spoiled by its buttery smooth motion that makes everything look responsive. It is also surprisingly bright with a 480 nits brightness and slightly better than the Redmi Note 9s. However, that doesn't mean the Redmi Note 9s doesn't have a good display despite not having a high refresh rate, as colors are accurate and it has an ambient sensor to change color temperature according to room lighting. I also prefer the smaller front camera cutout and position that doesn't feel so obstructive. The Redmi Note 9s has got one of the best loudspeakers I've heard on a mid-range phone. It easily fills the room without any distortion and is great for making conference calls. Although the Realme 6 loudspeaker didn't do quite as good, it has a more powerful headphone output where it produces better clarity and low frequencies. The Redmi Note 9s produces underwhelming low frequencies and sound can get muddy when playing songs with multiple instruments on headphones. Let's talk about software and performance. Both phones ship with Android 10 out of the box with their respective skins and UI. Though both offer a great deal of customizable themes and features, I prefer Realme's UI as it doesn't feel too overwhelmed with features. The text on settings are also more straightforward, and unlike MIUI, it gives you the choice of having an app drawer so that you can keep your home screen clean with only the app icons and widgets you need without requiring to install a third-party launcher. The app switcher also feels less complicated than the one on MIUI. Furthermore, Realme is doing a better job when it comes to memory optimization, as from time to time, I realize a slight stutter on the Redmi Note 9s. Note that I actually installed the same amount of apps, and what you are seeing now is the available free memory with only the DevCheck app open. The stutter probably shouldn't happen on the 6GB RAM version of the Redmi Note 9s, but hopefully Xiaomi is able to work on a fix. Most of us usually look down on MediaTek's SoC as an inferior solution to Qualcomm's Snapdragon. But this is no longer the case when it comes to gaming. The Realme 6 Mali G76 GPU managed to outperform the Redmi Note 9s Adreno 618 GPU in Vulkan graphics test on 3D Mark. Even if we simply refer that result as a reference rather than real-world performance, the Realme 6 is able to maintain a more consistent frame rate in games like Asphalt 9 and PUBG Mobile. Both phones will get warm during gameplay, but neither show signs of thermal throttling. Xiaomi has shown off some incredible photos shot on the Redmi Note 9s during its keynote, but they unfortunately aren't that impressive in real life once you do a side-by-side comparison with the Realme 6. Because the latter has a better main wide-angle camera that takes up to 64 megapixels and does pixel binning at 60 megapixels. Combined with the 2 megapixel monochrome depth sensor, it results in better details and dynamic range, though both cameras don't really do well in low light. Although the Redmi Note 9S has the 5-megapixel macro lens, the Realme 6 2-megapixel macro lens has better contrast and detail. Alright guys, this is the video recording sample of both the Redmi Note 9S and the Realme 6. Now both are recording at 1080p at 30 frames per second with their respective video image stabilization feature enabled. So as you can see, the Redmi Note 9S is doing a much better job when it comes to colors and focusing as well as image stabilization. Well, the Realme 6 on the other hand, it's surprising that video is kind of shaky here when I look at my viewfinder. That is actually pretty surprising because Realme did advertise the Realme 6 having video image stabilization, which I'm not sure why it's not enabled, and I wasn't able to find any setting that is able to enable or disable the video image stabilization feature. Audio recording wise, I have no idea on how it sounds right now because I'm actually recording this video before the voiceover came out. So yeah, I hope that both phones are actually good enough. But looking at it, it seems that the Redmi Note 9S is the clear winner here in terms of video quality. So they don't support image stabilization after you set to 1080p 60 or 4K 30 frames per second. But yeah, I guess 1080p 30 frames per second is good enough for most people out there. Right, so that's pretty much on the video recording sample. So we are getting back to the review. The Redmi Note 9S is the clear champ in battery life with a huge 5020 mAh battery. As I run a video playback test on both and did some web browsing on them with a 6-hour screen on time, the Redmi Note 9S is able to hold up at least 18% more charge than the Realme 6 even on standby. Both phones should have no issues enduring a full day of usage. However, when battery runs flat, this is when you will appreciate the much faster 30W Super VOOC charging on the Realme 6, as it will only take an hour and 10 minutes to juice it up. The Redmi Note 9S will take 30 minutes longer to fully charge with an 18W charging current due to the much larger battery. In terms of value, the Redmi Note 9S is priced lower than the Realme 6 from 799 ringgit for the 4GB RAM and 64GB storage model and 899 ringgit for the 6GB RAM and 128GB storage model. It might seem like the better choice on paper, but in truth, the Realme 6 is the overall better performer in this comparison for 999 ringgit. So it now comes down to your preference if you are willing to spend up to that money for the Realme 6 despite having lower RAM and a smaller battery. Or will you still prefer a Snapdragon powered device with a lower price tag? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and we'll talk about it. That's it for today's video and thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to us for more videos coming right up, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.